Thank you very much for joining Revision 2021. Almost 2,000 participants have applied to the event. I thank you all very much. The title of the event today is 10 years from March 11, a new energy future tomorrow. Needless to say, it would be the 10-year milestone from March 11 when there was the huge East Japan earthquake and the Fukushima Daiichi accident. Fukushima incident was the worst nuclear incident Japan experienced and impacted a wide area, including Fukushima. Without a lot of coincidental situations, it could have been even worse, affecting the entire part of East Japan. If the timing of the earthquake had been slightly different, it could have affected not only Fukushima Daiichi, but similar accidents could have occurred also at other nuclear power plants. So despite experiencing this kind of nuclear catastrophe, the government of Japan's energy policy continues to talk about the use of nuclear energy. Since last year, because of the need to stem climate change, a nuclear promotion is used as an excuse. Of course, it is true that there is no time to lose in order to strengthen our effort to avoid climate crisis. It is the top priority, but in the last 10 years, in Japan and across the world, renewable energy prices have gone down, and in order to significantly reduce CO2 emission, it has been proven that nuclear energy is not necessary at all, nor is it effective. At REI, as of yesterday, we have issued a new report towards 2050 net zero, that it is possible to do so by energy efficiency and expansion of renewable energy, the new pathway. As this report tells us, not only can we decarbonize the power sector by renewable energy, but by promotion of electrification, it would enable cheap production of green hydrogen, and therefore it would be the most important means in order to decarbonate in all sectors, including industry and transportation. The latest trend will be reported at this event. At our institute, the objective is to create renewable energy-based society. It was established in August 2011. At that timing, our purpose might have sounded only like a dream to many of the people. However, as of today, I do presume that many people share our vision that this is already a realizable future. Today, we have a large number of experts joining us from home and abroad. So first of all, the speaker will be the founder and the chair of Renewable Energy Institute, Son Masayoshi, representative of SoftBank Group. He has a special message. Mr. Son.
ソンでございます。
Time really flies. It's been 10 years since the Great Eastern Japan earthquake. I recall what happened at the time. A week after the earthquake struck, the politicians at the time and people in government, all, for various reasons, evacuated from the Tohoku region. And as for me, amidst this situation, I felt that there were many elderly and children who were left behind, and these people did not know what to do. Their city and town mayors and the leaders in the community could not make the decision that everyone should evacuate in view of the potential of the power plant explosion. The situation was very dangerous, and there may be radiation leakage, and there may be a huge explosion. And amidst this very dangerous situation, why couldn't the leaders and the politicians make the decision that everyone should evacuate immediately? The politicians and the local intellectuals, why don't they take everyone with them to evacuate, even if they have to drag them out? I was scared stiff, but I felt that I should go and try to persuade them in person. And I was prepared to prepare the shelter and the housing and the food and the means of transportation. And so it was my intention to talk to different governors, to ask them to create and prepare a place to receive them. And I was prepared to say I would cover all the expenses. And I persuaded them. I tried very hard. And I actually went to the site. Normally, the motorways would be stopped, and it would not be possible to enter the region. But as a CEO of a telecommunication company, as a person in the position of protecting communication infrastructure, I had special permission. Actually, our base station collapsed, and there was a power outage, and the communication was not possible. So one of my purposes was to visit this place. But my foremost purpose was to persuade people to evacuate. I had something like a Geiger counter on me, and it started to beep. And it was the first time I heard the device beep. And my heart palpitated in sync with the device. It's something I can't see, and there's no smell, but there's this dreadful radioactivity. And it may be that I might be contaminated. The previous night, I told my family that I may not be able to return because the situation was very dangerous. And I had tears in my eyes as I said this. And the family made a considerable effort to stop me, but I went anyway. I fell short, and I was unable to persuade the elderly and the children. The reason being, the mayors of towns and cities in the community that they belong do not say that they should evacuate immediately. And I was wondering why this was the case. I tried hard to persuade them. I took their hands, and I cried as I tried to persuade them. I told them it was dangerous, and it's dangerous unless they evacuate immediately, but I failed to persuade them. So with a long face and dejected, I returned to Tokyo. And what I thought at the time was the following: who said nuclear energy was safe? Who said nuclear energy power generation was cheap? Who said that nuclear power generation provides a stable power source? It's all lies. In the end, it's the poor elderly and children that get left behind. So what is this situation? I was so angry, I wanted to clobber someone. But I felt that what was most important was to come up with a resolution for the future. Of course, the immediate resolution did not come about, but the long-term perspective showed that without electricity, we cannot continue to live. Electricity is necessary. Energy is necessary. However, it has to be cheap and safe and non-depletable and clean. There's no way, no alternative other than to come up with an alternative power source with these qualities. So inevitably, the conclusion is renewable energy. But renewable energy at the time was not cheap. There was not enough volume that made it reliable, and there was no stable supply. I was a total layman when it comes to power and electricity. Amidst such circumstances, I felt that, however, we should try to educate and advocate to everyone regarding renewable energy and alternative means. And not only enlightenment, but I felt that we have to walk the talk. And so that's why I established the Renewable Energy Institute. And with the governors, we launched the Renewable Energy Council. And above all, to generate using renewable energy. That is what we did, not only in Japan, India, Mongolia, and overseas in various places. We started power generation using renewable energy. Presently, we generate enough power using renewable energy on a scale which ranks us among the top 3 in the world, most likely. We have come thus far. So why do we have to do this? On this earth, there are different life forms which exist. So man and mankind cannot act selfishly, and advanced industrialized countries should not be selfish either. There has to be a way where there is a sustainable energy source that can support everyone, and that is long-term, and that is secure and cheap, and that ensures stability. That kind of power source supply must be possible. So we did not use the old yardstick and ask, why can't we do this? We thought about how we can make this possible. And so we tried. In India, already, the cost is under 2 yen for 1 kilowatt in India. And that's the cost of the actual power generation, all inclusive. That is interest for financing, land clearing, the price of land, and of course the price of panels. It's an all-inclusive cost, under 2 yen at 1 kilowatt. Now we can sell at this price, which enables us to make a marginal profit. Of course, 7 or 8 years ago, the cost was much higher, and there were a lot of difficulty that we went through. But compared to other power sources, naturally compared to nuclear power, it's by far cheaper. And the cost is much cheaper than generating power through coal and gas. So what this means is that if you try, you can do it. And at this rate, in several years from now, in Japan as well, we'll be able to generate compared to any other power source. That should come to pass. When we started in Japan, we were technologically the most advanced in the world when it comes to solar power generation. Presently, we are a laggard. China is number 1 in terms of cost and the cheapness of the cost for panels for power generation. Japan, India, China, and the United States and Europe, all countries are engaging in solar power generation, wind and heat, geothermal power generation. The methodology should be the state of the art at the time. At all times, in some part of the world, there is the sun, and the wind is blowing in some part of the world, and in some part of the world, there are currents and geothermal energy, which we can leverage to generate power. What's important is the grid, to link this with the grid of transmission lines. And if we supply each other stably at all times and everywhere, we would be able to share power. And I think that should happen. So what is impeding this? What is preventing this from happening? The existing power utilities own both the power generation and transmission business. Power generation is such that there are different businesses emerging, but transmission is such that local monopolies exist, and they have the right to transmission. Why do they have this monopoly right anyway? There are different anti-monopoly, antitrust laws. Maybe they're just sitting on their monopoly rights and being comfortable. The companies which were supposed to have been set up for people is now perhaps impeding our future, and that should not be condoned. So what can we do to bring about a change? Politics should issue different commands and orders to do something about this. The politicians should awaken to the seriousness of the issue and should exert leadership. I hope they will do so. And the power utilities perhaps had very laudable reasons and ambitions when they started the company. But as they became adults, they had various adult circumstances which confused them. And so we hope that they will sort this out and resolve the confusion and honestly think about their children and their grandchildren. And if they are indeed an impediment, they should open up their minds and very honestly and purely, they should work for the good of the society. And that is, I think, what should happen. We could tell them that, but they don't. They're not persuaded. So what's important is that each and every citizen awaken to the importance of the issue, and they should raise their voices. And the politicians and the bureaucrats and the businesses inevitably must awaken to the reality. The world is constantly moving. Automobiles and everything else will likely be powered by electricity. Even with the penetration of EVs on the generation side, if they're caught up and tangled up in old legacy issues, it's meaningless. So inclusive of power generation, using renewable energy, and eternally into the future, renewable energy, and no matter how much you use it, it does not diminish. Solar panels are such that in a project finance, 20 years or 25 years would enable you to recoup your investment. Solar panels last 80 years. So 25 years after you've recovered your investment, fuel and raw materials will be zero cost, and panels will enable you to continue to generate power at zero cost. If you look at the situation in this light, compared to any other power source, in terms of the total power generation equipment and solar panel equipment, the total cost, without a doubt, is cheaper than any other power source. Even now, actually, in terms of the lifetime value of the equipment, it's presently the cheapest, in my view. So I hope that the power generating companies, once they're able to generate at a cheap cost, they would properly compete based on this cheap cost to supply. We should join our forces to expand the sustainable, renewable energy-based world. My main line of business is information revolution. I'm focusing on AI at the moment. So renewable energy is not my main line of business. In various forms, however, people are engaging in different things. There are developments throughout the world. So I should not be the only one talking. The whole world is showing that trend, and the technology is there. In Japan, we can generate as much as we want to, but transmission is not permitted. So liberating the transmission grid, that's the crux of the issue. If that is done, there are many generation companies. There's land, and there's technology, and there's equipment. So there has to be competition so that it's supplied in Japan and in the world. And hopefully across boundaries, as is the case in Europe, various countries should leverage large capacity transmission lines to link up. Now, if this happens, as the internet and telephones are linked throughout the world using submarine cables, power lines likewise can be linked using submarine cables. And the world will become one. And that will make the grid safer, and a safer and a secure transmission network will become possible. And then when that happens, a sustainable, safe, and secure, and cheap power network will be created. In my own small way, I'd like to contribute, and I would like to work with you. And I pray that such a society will transpire. I ask for your kind cooperation. Thank you very much.